Guys, how you doing? I wanted to make a podcast. I don't know what it's called yet. Um, but welcome to my space. And I just started brainstorming about, the future. So, we are in a situation now where it's an unprecedented time. So we have to start thinking about, what are the long term possibilities for how North America can organize itself, sort of top down, like from considering the distribution of income and as a priority, being like, yo, how does the 1% have as much money as the bottom 99%, you know, or the bottom 50% or something like that. I just say the top 1% has like 60, 70%, of the bottom 70% of the wealth. And it just goes to show that there's an incredible amount of inequality, that this staggering amount of inequality is probably the root of the majority of our problems as a nation. At the point when the inequality becomes so extreme, you get situations where the government isn't even functioning, thinking rational, long-term strategy for the benefit of the nation as a whole, right? So it's like you have this government, and now it's just there to sort of be a short-term like blocker to prevent taxation, to prevent increases in spending that would bring socialism to the mass of the people. It's basically the rich class has used their money and power to have the government do what it wants, what they want for it, and not for the nation as a whole. The problem is when the nation as a whole isn't growing, neither is the capitalist class, who is now facing an economy where the infrastructure sucks. Their products are no longer competitive because they can't be investing. They don't have the same backup from the government to make sure that they have the right infrastructure, et cetera, the right price of energy. So everything is so horribly expensive, and now we're not number one in 59 out of 64 high-tech areas. So it's it's a big awakening for North America, guys. This is a radical shift, and right now, as Iran is taking over the Middle East because they have the means to do it, it's basically the end of the petrodollar system. We're no longer going to have trade in oil for dollars necessarily. I mean, I don't see how we can enforce that. We can't even enforce the production of oil out of the Gulf, much less that it's going to be traded in dollars. Guys, this is, it's radical. It's radical. I mean, it's just like I'm not laughing because I think it's a wonderful thing to anticipate. If people screw the transition up, then it could be really bad. It's just it's monumental. It's very heavy, and it's a major transition in the world. It also forces America but it opens this window of opportunity that lets us reinvent ourselves and become the better version of ourselves. Let me explain. So imagine that all of our budget is being spent on these bases in the world where, like, it's not to say that U.S. military isn't practical in some cases where it's actually helping justice occur. But basically, our occupation of the world with the military was primarily designed so that we could control trade routes and basically maintain our colonies. So it's like we're this neo-colonial empire. We're parking our bases all around the world just so that we can project force, if our colonial program isn't going according to how we want it. The thing is this system is no longer effective. We can no longer use that force to influence what we want to have happen. So it's a lot of wasted money on this military stuff. So imagine all that spending. Trump was talking about reducing military spending to $500 billion. Imagine you took all those bases from the world, you took that spending and you put it into the space industrial complex. So now you have $1 trillion in the space industrial complex, $500 billion in the military industrial complex, which now has reduced spending needs because we don't have to occupy the world because it's not generating returns. It's, this decolonization effort of the world is real and is happening. So basically, and the idea that we're going to get, that we can't generate incredible amounts of wealth on our own continent with the available technology, the energy that's available, is like, I think we're too afraid that losing the colonial empire is somehow going to plunge us into an abyss. I don't buy that at all. Basically, if we have a better system of managing the money in our society where we tax the 1% and we're putting that as investment into the infrastructure to lower the operating cost of cities, that's really where we're making those gains. And then our long-term trade with China, as they're coming up, as BRICS is coming up, those are billions of people over there. We're going to want to attract their money. And we're going to want to, in real estate, in natural resources. So it's like, we're 4% of the population. What are we supposed to be doing? Like telling the world how to run their countries and, clog up their trade lanes? I mean, we're going to look ridiculous if we don't change our mentality about how the world has changed fundamentally. From this Western-led order where, you have colonies where you basically you need labor, you need resources, but today it's like, oh man, the technology is so much greater. There's tons of resources in North America. There's Greenland, so it's like we're not going to run out of resources. And by the time that we're going to be running out of resources, we're going to be mining asteroids. We're going to be building in space. And honestly, of the recent things that I've been thinking of, this is the most important idea I've come up with, is that you need to change the military industrial complex into the space industrial complex, because they're going to make way more money in the space industrial complex, and they're going to be way greater returns in the space industrial complex. Right now, we kind of have a system where you have the military industrial complex. It's a trough. It's like it's in every state. And so the incentive is, hey, let's have another war. It's like they set it up deliberately like that to encourage war and the war industry. But now it's at a time when the productivity, the gains of that is being reduced substantially. You're threatening global nuclear war, when you're trying to use the force, and then, it gets too dramatic too fast with all the weapons that there's, what's the point in investing in more weapons? Blow up the world 100 times? No, 1,000 times. It's like, it's madness. It's absolute madness. It's dangerous. It's so expensive. As opposed to the space industrial complex where you can throw trillions of dollars, and now you're mining asteroids and building stuff into space for something practical where you can send colonies to live, survive the universe, because now we're not going to be brought down by an asteroid. So I think this is the most important thing for the military industrial complex and people who call themselves politicians to manage, is like, get the guys that are always for sale, that are using their money to try to squeeze money out of the system for military purposes, and say, no, you're the space industrial complex. We're going to throw even more trillions if you just, drop that shit now, and, here's the money, right? And so basically, you throw $1 trillion at them and say, no, here's $500 billion for a military industrial complex, but it's the same companies. Okay. It's just a switch of function. That's how I would manage it. And I think it's very important that it's done like that. So anyway, guys, yeah, it's very interesting how this is unfolding. And I think Iran has an opportunity to remake the region how it wants to in terms of a security arrangement. I think it's going to grow with China. I think it's going to grow with Europe. Eventually, it's like Europe is frowning at it now, but Europe is so weak. It needs energy, and it needs a new superpower. It needs to work with China. China has all the technology. 59 out of 64 high-tech areas. There's no reason to be creating friction with China now. We want to get access to all of their technology that's going to make a difference in the lives of the general population, so we can provide it for our people at a low cost. So then our cities are operating at low cost, so that if we don't have the top tech, we're not worried, because we still have natural resources and real estate we can trade, and we're efficiently taking care of everybody. We have no homeless, everybody's fed, everybody has a basic income, education, healthcare, transportation, etc. So yeah, guys, this is the day and age of major rethinking, about how North America is going to be able to manage its population. I don't think allowing capitalism. We're too heavy into the capitalism at this time in order to provide for the general population. And now the general population is gonna, it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. These things can erupt in revolutions. That's the force that's being applied. Pressure is being ratcheted up on the mass of the people who are living paycheck to paycheck. And now that paycheck is buying less and less, and it's like, where is their money going? It's going to foreign governments. It's going to endless wars. It's going to, just like the people are suffering, so yeah, guys, this is, if we're serious about managing the well-being of the North American population, to make sure that we go into the future, to make sure we actually have something. It's like, it could get really bad. Imagine $10 gas. Imagine $10 gas. Yeah, you can weather storms, and you can be like, okay, there's no mass starvation in America. But there are people that are going to bed hungry in America. So it's like, we have to do a better job at taking care of our population. I think now is the time to start thinking of that. I think when times get bad, the instinct is for the rich to crawl off to their, safe havens. But as they're doing that in a time like this, now they're losing now their nation is really declining and disappearing. So what are they really trying to do? Where they weren't trying to be part of a successful nation. They're just gonna, and so then the nation has to think, how does it, with what it has, how does it reel in the resources of the rich? How does it give itself power to do that? How does it put those resources into infrastructure, into the needed socialism for the bottom 70% living paycheck to paycheck at a time when you're going to have $10 gas, and that's going to destroy incomes, So we really, really have to consider, potential futures and make amenable accommodations to said futures. So, I mean, guys, we have to take care of our people. You can't have an economy in free fall because everything that it was based on, the availability of oil is suddenly gone, and now nothing is moving around, and that's a downward spiral into an economy that unravels. So, we really, really have to, at the top levels, take appropriate action, take responsible control, and ensure that there is you know, well, they can keep the price of oil down maybe, but I don't know how long they can do that. But you know, the what they need to do is figure out a new energy system that's based on electricity for the vehicles. You upgrade the electric grid as fast as you can. You open up imports to BYD. You know, I mean, it's um, it, it, basically you want to create an economy where you're not dependent on oil. If oil is going to be lacking in it and priced at $10 a gallon, you know, which has been the cheap fuel for the North American economy for as long as anybody can know when. We have these big distances, big roads, you know, and that's been the abundance of resources per capita in North America has made us the best in World War II. Like we could outproduce Europe, you know, so many times over, but we had so many more resources, you know, per capita, three times as many per capita, right? And so it's like we've kind of been a wasteful economy. Our economy is not been, even though now you see that we've been kind of pioneering in energy conservation technologies. Our We've been largely a very resource intensive society, wasting resources because of the abundance of resources. It's like this landmass, this untouched landmass, you know, no industrialization, nothing, you know, and it's just like it's still there. That's We have so many resources, and for us to get bent out of shape going around the world trying to turn all the countries into colonies at the expense of us being able to develop our own abundance in a measured and coherent way is ridiculous, you know? So simultaneously, when you're pulling in these resources to save on the military industrial complex, to kick it to the space industrial complex. Sorry, my dad's phoning me just now. I can't answer this just now. Um, you want to basically you basically hold on one second. Sorry.